You're tuned in to RX Radio.
Thing.
I thought you was like put on some prep, like that was like your walkout song for the podcast.
Some hype music.
Some hype music for the pod. I thought that's what the Zins were for.
I mean, I got the buffet lined up right here.
Well, yeah, let's talk about it because I saw you pulling something out. What are we drinking here? What is that?
So this is a Spindrift.
Oh, it's like a swag of sparkling, like flavored sparkling water.
Raspberry lime sparkling water.
See, I thought you were I thought you were just going straight for the fridge cigarette. Like I thought you were going Diet Coke all day.
Diet Coke.
You a DC guy?
I like Diet Coke, Coke Zero. Yeah. The thing, like my go-to though, at the end of the day, is sparkling water.
But like with flavor though,
or not.
Like when we go to a restaurant, how many restaurants have you and I been to? Are you a bottle of still or bottle of sparkling?
I went bottle of sparkling for a while, and then I just went back to tap. I'm like, it's really gay to order just like a bottle of sparkling water at the restaurant. Not like
real.
Yeah.
What made you experiment? Were you just getting bougie? Were you kind of feeling yourself a bit? Like, you know what, we're out the game for a minute. Like,
I can afford to spend $13 on a bottle of water. Why not give it a try? Just to
big flex.
Realize that it's not as good as just ice water.
To me, it kills my appetite.
Yeah, it doesn't do that for me. I just think it's like ice cold. It's very satisfying. So like if it's not ice cold, I don't even want it.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Yeah. Like if it sits on the table for longer than 4 seconds, like I don't want this $13 bottle of water.
If I'm paying that much, it's going in a bucket. Like it's
Like
it's got to be on that bedside table, man, and shit. Like you got to have that on ice, ready to go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What about you? What do you?
I'm bottle of still.
Bottle of still?
Oh yeah. That was like a turning point for me. That was like
how did you come to that?
I checked my bank account and said I could afford it. I did not get my card declined at the grocery store that day, and then I was like, you know what, today's the day. Because like I mean, going out like let me tell a story because today's episode is going to be all about pre-script. I'm going to tell you a story.
Chomp down the Zin buffet here.
One of my favorite stories about us as business owners.
Oh God!
I think it must have been last year. And
a recent one,
so let's give some color to this. You and I started this company officially on paper in November 2016.
Yeah,
right. And the idea sort of got kicked around all of that year previous, so most of 2016. But really, what happened was it's funny because I think this is the origin. I remember. And I forget what class or was it it was some organized school event. I remember a teacher we had, Ty Pence, shout out Ty Pence, who was like, he had a head on his shoulders for a guy who taught at a chiropractic college. Like, did pretty well in the field. Like he was someone that you respected as he was like a diligent practitioner. He wasn't a con man. Like he had a good name and he also taught at the school. It's like, okay, which wasn't not something you couldn't say for everyone that taught us at school.
Yeah.
And he told this story once. And you know what? It may have been in Sports Council. It may have been in Sports Council where he talked about, there was other chiropractor, Brant Pedersen. And he said him and Pedersen were friends. And Pedersen was known kind of in the local community, very successful. And the story was something to the effect of him, after they graduated, maybe once a month or every couple of weeks, I remember specifically because I'm like, oh, that must be nice. He said him and Pedersen would go out on Pedersen's boat, and talk about like practice and stuff. I'm like, well, you're dunking on us like that. Y'all got boats. That's cool. But I thought like, that's an interesting idea. Like, pair up with someone who's like in the area, maybe, like that you went to school with, that, kick ideas around, like what's working. And that for me, and we connected through lifting and really just the only two kids that stuck around after school had similar setups. And that for me was like kind of catalyzed that. I was like, yo, I want to get, and I'm like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, you want to get together and like kind of meet up and just like grab lunch and kind of chat. And I remember you put me on to like, I think you put me on to using Square. I was looking at like and we talked about electronic medical record software. So we would meet up, I don't know, like once a month, maybe it turned into once every 2 weeks and then every week.
Mm-hmm.
And then in our commiseration, we were like, yo, dog, like we gotta do, because we would do social stuff too, right? Like you started, and this is what most people don't know. Your Instagram account went from 0 to 100 the quickest I've ever seen. Like you had 10,000 followers inside of 2 weeks.
Yeah, it blew up pretty quick.
Yeah, you were at 11, 12,000 in like 11 or 12 days. You're well known in the CrossFit community, but also putting out stuff that was relevant to the community, that was helpful, and like immediately, and like people shared it around. And so we kind of had this like, okay, how do we balance like having a practice? What's the deal with this digital side? There are people in the world that are making money doing this, that have our credentials. And then that was really what kind of got us going. Like, that's how I remember it starting, was like having this idea, like, yo, let's meet. We both are here and we both like lifting. We both have similar practices. Let's just get together.
Dude, that's so funny to hear you tell the story, because I don't think we've really come together on this. I mean, we have plenty of times, but not in a while, like not in the recent past. But like when I recount the story, it's pretty much the exact same thing. I'm like,
Okay.
I don't like, it starts for me with like us meeting like that, because I remember we would just get together and we were just two fucking angsty kids out of school with a bunch of debt and like this bullshit diploma, and we're like trying to figure it out. And I just remember that we were like, we would just meet up and we'd bounce ideas off one another. And it was like, it did start around, like our practices paralleled each other at the beginning. It's like you were at dance spot in the powerlifting gym. I was in Sundown at the CrossFit gym. We were like marketing to our populations. We were in the gym. We were like, we had very similar, as we do have very similar rationales on training and rehab and how things should be done. And like that created this common frustration between the two of us, because we saw like what the norm was in the industry that we're in. And then we saw just everything that was going on, like all the bullshit, and we were dealing with the same frustrations with the clients. And like the root of it in my mind, it was a couple of things that came together in my mind, but like the root of it was like, how can we scale this message? And we knew what we were doing was working, because we were getting good results with clients. We were obviously both successful in training in the strength sports that we were competing in, but we're just running it, like having the same conversations day in, day out. And like, we're talking like 2015, 2016, social media then wasn't what it is now. It was like remnant, but things didn't spread as quickly. Like it wasn't as saturated as it is now. So it's like there wasn't as much readily available good information. There's plenty of information out there. It just wasn't good information. And I think honestly the timing was great, because there weren't that many companies that were doing things on like the widespread on the platform of the internet, I guess, like in terms of education, in terms of programming. Like there were a few of the OGs that were around at that time, but like this was kind of the first wave of people scaling their in-person business on the internet. I think in this way, like in the training industry. It's not like, the .com boom in like '08 or whatever the fuck it was, but this was like, it was like the first wave. We were seeing some of it, like K-Star was one of the originals. I was working with this company Romwad at the time, and I remember just seeing the numbers that they were doing, and like they were fucking breaking it in. It was like this online, like 30-minute pre-recorded yoga video that people would do every day. And I'm like, wait, you guys are making how much money? Like, I gotta do something, because I'm like barely paying rent right now. And we would just get together and we'd commiserate on this. And like, we just had a message. We didn't know what the product was, but we had a fucking message. And that's why the podcast, like you were involved with the Mind Pump guys early on, like, yo, we got to start a podcast. I'm like, all right, let's fucking start I got shit to say. Let's fucking do it. And it was really Prescript in its inception. It's nothing like it is today, right? Like what we thought this company was going to be was like online rehab programming, like personal programming. Like we kind of started that like online coaching route. But now it's like everyone and their brother has an online coaching business. But like we were trying to scale that at mass at first, but it was really like the core of what we built the brand around was the message. Like we have this message of how things should be done. And like, we're really fucking fed up with the way people are doing things and making money off of it. And like, that's kind of the core of how this started in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big takeaways in looking back is just the importance of how eager we both were, not just to collaborate with one another, which I think was pretty rare. Because like,
yeah,
for a good practitioner, we were kind of down the street, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're in Santa Clara, I was in Mountain View. Now Bay Area is a big spot. People don't like the traffic. So it's like, it's not like we were fishing from the same pond, but like we didn't see it that way anyways. Like it wasn't enough for us to be like, there was no scarcity between you or I. So it was so clearly delineated. Like there was enough people in my gym alone to keep me fed. There's enough people in your gym. So I think like one of the things that when I look back, and even just hearing you say it comes to mind, is like the early collaboration of obviously me and you, but I think like you with Ramwad and getting proximity to like that type of business, and then me, doing content with Mind Pump guys, and them being, and honestly, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is actually from Mind Pump, and will continue to be even to this day, because their eagerness to collaborate 10 years ago, before they were this fucking juggernaut that they are now, they were still way bigger than we were, and they were fairly well established, but they kind of took me under their wing and were open to collaborate with me, even though we were kind of fishing in the same pond. And like, they didn't give a fuck. Like they saw the value of it. And then you start catching glimpses of numbers, and you start seeing downloads, and you start seeing, sponsorship stuff. And you're like, oh, like there's a there there. Like there's something to this. And, thinking about you talk about the OGs. I remember you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were at one point with lifting, you were subscribed to Cal Strength, right?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I was like following their program. I went up and like I worked with their coaches. I took one of my USAW level 2 with Dave Spitz. Like, yeah.
I mean, and I was at a point, one of my offices was in the East Bay with Jesse Burdick.
Yeah.
And Birdman had Power Wad, which is like a subscription service, and then there was Hybrid, and we were close to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had like, there was enough proof of concept around us, and I think we had some opportunities to like collaborate with people who were collaborative, like who were, who would help you out, who were like, oh, you try this, or didn't care that we were doing our own thing and they were doing theirs. Like there was, and it could have just been like community of people that we sort of had cultivated. I'm sure there were people out there who were maybe more scarce in mindset and not so forthcoming, but like, when I think of what really got us off the ground, it was collaboration without a doubt. And when I look now, and it's hard to do an apples to apples from 2015, 2016 to 10 years later, but I still think like that principle reigns pretty true. Like when people reach out and they're asking to me about business, all I have is our story, right? That's the only experience I have. And I tend to not get prophetic with it and extrapolate out what limited experience I have. Now, the experience that we have has led us here, but there's so much contextual or so much that's in context of the environment that really is going to dictate whether or not what we did would have worked in any other setting. Right. Mm-hmm. So all we can really do is be like, this is what we did. I'm not saying to do any of this, but if there's a lesson to be gleaned, and I think one of the universal truths out of the way we started that I think a lot of people lose is that collaboration. They don't pick up on that. Like me and you, people just think me and you are Siamese twins. Like people just think like we're just like attached. How many times have we walked in and people think we're brothers? Right. Like people just think, oh yeah, like those guys are just like born. It's like, no. Like we went to school. There was 50 something kids in our graduating class.
Mm-hmm.
And it was every man for himself after that. But me and you were kind of like, hey, you want to like work? So I think people, when they address, us in this capacity, they miss that piece right out of the jump. Like, no, this is a collaboration, and it has been the entire time. And like, this is not so many people come to me with a business idea and I'm like, who's involved? They're like, well, it's just me. That's bold, dude. Like, you think you got all the answers? Right. That ain't gonna work, man. So that was when I look at like the inception of it. It's like, really, Ty Pence, if I pull the cord back to the wall as far as I can, it's hearing him say that. And then obviously like the lifting thing was what drew us together, right? Like I remember the first time me, you, and Tyler Dickinson worked out at it was Gold's at the time. It was Gold on 1900 Duane Avenue in Santa Clara.
Yep.
And we worked out. And Dickinson was just a nutcase. He was a fucking psychopath. He was, you know what Dickinson was? Dickinson was too good of a student to be friends with us. That's what it was. I tried so hard.
Fine.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. He's in St. John, Michigan. He's probably got 3 kids. Probably still got abs. Like he's just doing. But I remember trying to keep up with him. Yeah. I sat front row until the teachers were like, "Yo, you fall asleep too much. You got to move to the back row." Oh my god. Oh man. And but yeah, that was like early day stuff. So that's one of the things that I like extrapolate when I talk to people about business is like, where are your opportunities to collaborate?
Yeah.
Right? Like, do you want to have the whole small measly fucking pie and eat it by yourself?
Yeah.
Or do you want to have a slice of something bigger that you can share? Because I think there's two metaphors here, right? There's like do you want all the money for yourself, right? Like, do you want the entire pie? But like, there's also do you want to sit there and eat a whole pie that sounds some depressing shit, dog. Like, if you're sitting there just eating by yourself, like that's not a fun time. And like, let me tell you, there are going to be some not fun times, and they're a little bit more fun when you have someone else to not have fun with.
Yeah. Someone to commiserate with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another lesson. Like, that's kind of how it started, right? Like, that was, and I think there's another thing that kind of comes to the forefront that I still think is true is there's a creative element to business ownership that I speak to a lot. And I think it's something that in the fitness industry, it's hard to see it that way, right? Like, you had your experiences in, with Ramwad and CrossFit, and like in what was a much more commercialized, marketable space, right? Powerlifting, super fringe, right? Now, like, we were connected to some powerlifting adjacent companies that were really, really big, but like at scale, you go to Wadapalooza. I remember going to Wadapalooza with you in 17, 18.
Yeah, I think it was January 18.
January 18, and like looking around, it was like, dude, this is like the venues, the expos, the build out. I'm like, this is you guys are doing this for real. Like, this is big time shit.
Yeah.
We go to a powerlifting meet. It's like, there was a bear at one of my meets once. That was pretty cool. The Russians brought a bear in a cage. I'm like, oh, that's illegal. Like, that's not okay. But there it is.
That's how they transported the Tren.
Yeah. In the bear, the Tren bear. Yeah. The old Tren bear trick, classic Moscow tactics. But look at it, and it's going to sound weird to say, but like the content creation was a really big part of it because it was a part of the collaborative process. Like, I remember, you were doing video shoots and photo shoots with Ramwad. Like, you were on their website at one point. I was going to Mind Pump Studios, and we were both independently putting up our own content. Because this is like, and this is a thing that I would say, if there's a piece of advice that I've given people that I kind of give to myself, or I look back and think what really catalyzed it, was we didn't have a mood board. We didn't have a clue. I didn't know what side of the bed to piss on. Like, I was fucking, like, I was so broke and so scared and so tired. But all we did, and I think what we did really well, and I think what we try to still continue to do well, is what is the most immediate opportunity that you have? That's so people get so lost in the end result that they don't get that whatever the end result is a byproduct of that next step, right? And the next step has to be your highest leverage opportunity that you have. What is the thing that's in front of you right now that will move the needle more than anything else? And you move as aggressively towards that as you can. And let me get whatever direction that takes you in, it's going to skew you from your mood board, but it's going to get you to exactly where you need to be. Right. Because that opportunity came as a byproduct of everything you've done up until now. Right. So I see people turn down opportunities. Opportunity is like oxygen when you're starting out, right? You fucking need it. Like, you swim towards it like your life depends on it, because it fucking does. And people are like, well, like, it's a bit of a drive. Like, but shut the walk, like, shut up, like, move. And it's something that I think is consistent across the people that we know to be successful is like, whatever's in front of you right now. Like, I was talking to a level 2 student today, and they're weighing out a couple of options that they had of, like, going back to the school that they played sports in, or trying to get their feet wet in one-to-one PT to get experience. I was like, dude, go back to the school. What weigh those out? How many people can walk into any college at any level and get a job and train athletes at any level, versus how many can walk into, insert commercial gym and get a PT job? It's like, which is a higher leverage opportunity? Take that one. Okay, cool. You've been to the school. Great. Someone already knows who you are. There's younger athletes that already know who you are. You're already going to have some respect. And like that's the way that I think that we thought about it, was like, we're going to attach ourselves to the next opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the podcast was like a huge catalyst for this, because like selfishly using that just to learn from people that I thought were doing a good job in the industry was like, that was the biggest opportunity, I think, for me, at least at the time, because it's like, all right, like I've been doing this a minute. I definitely have my point of views, but there's a lot of people that I really look up to and that kind of shape the way that I think about things. And this was literally an opportunity to talk to some of the people that I regarded as the best in the world at what they're doing. Like, I get to have an hour-long conversation with this person just because like it gives them a little bit of clout. And it's like, fuck yeah. Like some of these people probably charge way more than I can afford for like an hour-long consult. So it's like, let's get on a podcast. I'm going to have a conversation about like programming or about like injury rehab, and just opened up so much opportunity just to add value in my thought process at the time. And that was the thing, like, because that's when it comes down to it, that's what this company is built on, right? Is our thought process around exercise and the way that we approach things and things that we found to be most effective and most efficient. And like, that doesn't belong to me. Like the perspective that I have on it now belongs to me, but that was built by every single conversation that I've had around along the way, with every single book I've read, with every single YouTube video that I've watched, every blog post that I've seen to date. So it's like having the opportunity to talk to people that like, you know, I've learned from them in the stuff that they've put out into the world, but I get to actually have a one-on-one conversation with them. Like that was a huge opportunity for collaboration and for like having that mindset around like, all right, this is a growth opportunity for me. This isn't just like a piece of content. This is something that I'm genuinely interested in and it's going to build value. And I think that's the thing that like around a big part of business, I'll say now, is an online presence. It doesn't matter what fucking business it is. It doesn't matter what sector you're in. Like you have to have some sort of online presence. You have to have a website, a social media. You have to put out some sort of, you know, free content, free information. But a lot of people look at it as like, all right, I have to create content. But for me from the beginning, it was I don't like creating content. I don't like posting on the internet, but I do like adding value. And that's, if you take that approach to it, it's like, all right, this is something that's on every single one of our podcasts you can go back and listen to. And we might get canceled if the wrong person goes and does that. But at the same time, like that's value that is there perpetually, right? Someone probably found podcasts of us early on just because they were searching like someone that we were talking to or like something we were talking about. And these are things that like, if you approach it in that aspect, like I'm not going to leverage this right now to make money, because that's not how I like to think about business. That's a little ingenuine. That's very salesy, very transactional. But if you think of it in the aspect of I'm just going to create value and I'm going to hope that value comes back to me somehow, some way. And that's literally how we built this company, is just by adding value without that expectation that it's going to have that immediate return. Right. It's not transactional value. It's just value for the interest, or in the interest of adding value, because this is the way that we think things should be done. Or this is the way that like something I find valuable, something I want to learn. So I'm hoping that this resonates with someone else that has a similar mindset. And that's literally how we've built an audience, how we've been able to build this company, is just by finding people that our message resonates with. And that comes from having conversations with people that you admire, people that you think are doing a good job, and not necessarily in the sense of like, you know, just gaining clout from this person, but in the sense of like actually spreading valuable ideas. And I think that always shines through.
And I think the chicken and the egg this, because one of the things that I see on the receiving end of it now is, if someone's reaching out to me for a podcast, one of the first things that I'm going to do is to see like, well, what value are they providing, right? Like, is the value they're providing licensing value from other people, or are they out with some skin in the game doing the thing? Because I think it's, you know, definitely, and I can think of a handful, like that podcast tour that you and I did. I mean, it's funny to even call it a tour, but like, you know what, we picked up
big. That's like, dude, I think a pivotal moment in my career.
Absolutely. Like we went down to SoCal. Did we fly or drive?
I think we flew down and we rented. I remember we rented this car that was like so cheap that it was indiscernible. Like we lost it every time we parked because it was literally just take any car on the street.
Yeah, I don't even think it had a brand on it. I think they pulled it from some prop lot in somewhere in Hollywood or something.
Yeah.
And okay, so it was. Let me see if because we did 6 or 7 in the course of like 3 days.
Yeah, we were in like La Jolla.
Fuck, I forget the one dude's name. We were sitting cross-legged on the floor. We Viata was really cool.
I thought
Alex
about
Viata was
the other day. I cried on that podcast.
That was great though. Fuck
It was
that guy.
great.
Yeah, it was a great podcast. Yeah, shout out Jiunta's grandma for real. Like she's like OG go. So we did whoever the fuck that guy was. I don't know what he's doing now.
Yeah,
He's probably
Wellness Force.
Wellness Force. Josh something? Was it Josh? Someone's gonna bring us up on this. This is getting bad. But nice enough, dude, and nice to have us out. Like
Dude, yeah.
So shout out to that guy. Actually a solid dude, and it was a cool experience.
Yeah.
Then we went to, and this is no particular order. Alex Viata we had on.
Yep.
We went out to I forget the name of the gym. We had Quinn Hennick on. We talked about that.
Oh, that was SoCal powerlifting, weightlifting at the time.
Right. We're 3 in.
Yeah.
I went on the Juggernaut show with Max Aida and Chad Wesley Smith. That was wild. Yeah. Because there was like some other people there that knew you, and we went together, and you were like, yo, these people are a big deal. I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah, they were the best weightlifters in the country at the time. They were lifting with Max, and I just like hung out with them.
Yeah, that was okay. So we're like 4, and I know we had a few more.
Barbell Shrugs was one of them.
Barbell Shrug was wild, dog.
Remember we showed up like 2 hours early or something, so we just found some coffee shop in Encinitas that would let us in, and we got coffee.
We slept on them,
and we fell asleep in the coffee shop.
I think we trained before too. I think we went in. We took a little napski. I mean, I remember just being out, like literally just baking in the sun, like haven't slept in 2 days. Oh, because we haven't even got to the best part about the fucking camper van we slept in.
Oh
I still have that video.
I do too, man.
It's so funny. I'm gonna see if I can pull
it up. My favorites. Yeah.
Is it actually? Oh, it better be in my favorites.
I look at that periodically.
It's so funny.
Yeah, you were proper large at that time. You were probably like 275, dude, sleeping in the crow's nest.
So I was ready to go though, because my plan was okay. So basically, no money. We get the most inconspicuous rental car of all time. We wanted to hit that. You know what it was? I just got sponsored. I remember that
on weekend. The car ride to Juggernaut.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I got sponsored by Universal for powerlifting, and I was like, so unbelievably hyped. They like put it up on socials and all this shit, and I was like, this is the best my life's ever going to be. Like, it's only going to get worse from here. But in the interest of saving money, I have it right here.
Amazing.
Dude, so we rented this. So if you guys aren't watching on YouTube, you'll have to watch. Yeah, Jesus. That's people wonder why I have high blood pressure now. Fuck. And so this is me doing the MTV Cribs tour. Yo, the number of tweakers in this backyard was nuts. I remember looking at it at night and just seeing eyeballs like blinking.
Yeah. It was like a compound. I remember waking up in the morning at like 6 or so to someone filling up the water tank on the trailer so we could take a shower.
I don't remember that at all. I don't think I showered, but I remember. So this video, if you guys are watching it, I'll post it on Instagram when this episode goes up. We're doing a tour of this camper van. It would have been like $60 a night. It was literally an RV. This is the moment I realized where I was sleeping. Just like, wait, I'm sleeping up here.
Oh,
and God. So that's where I slept on that fucking crow's nest. You were down on the bed. And like my plan was if anyone breaks in, I was coming in off the top ropes. Top ropes. And you were just gonna, you were gonna take them to the ground with your wrestling skills. And I was just gonna use gravity to crush them. And so yeah, we did that. And we barbell shrugged, Alex Viata, Juggernaut Strength, Quinn Hennick, the Wellness Force guy. I thought we maybe snuck in one more. I can't remember. I'm gonna be kicking myself because I'm pretty sure it was 6 in 3 days.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. I can't remember. Did we do one in Venice?
Maybe. Anyways, doesn't matter. We'll have to go back and fact check it. Yeah. But so that for me was like, the reinvestment into that. And much to your point of like, hey, you saw a ton of value in being able to collaborate with people and have conversations, and the podcast being a good vector for that. But I think the success of those outreaches was because people knew that we were doing shit, right? Like when the reason Barbell Shrugged or, Quinn or any of these guys would give us a second look is because when they gave us a second look, it was like, oh, this guy's, on Team NorCal CrossFit at Wadapalooza. Like, this is like a guy, right? And this the lesson in this, I think, is, a lot of people start podcasts and they're not taking that first step in providing value, right? Like, your Instagram was at 10K followers, and you were well recognized in the CrossFit community. So then when you reach out to have these genuine conversations, people who didn't know you still knew it was genuine because you were taking that first step and providing value without them. And there's licensing, there's value to be licensed from you in this transaction, right? And I think that was what really catalyzed some of these early conversations, because we were able to get, I mean, you had John North at one point. We were able to get these interviews down in SoCal. I remember Josh Bryant, which, like, in my world specifically, and really in the strength world at large, like, that was really cool. Rob Hall came on. That was awesome. Who are some early guests for you that you're like, oh, yo, I can't believe we actually have an opportunity?
Dude, one that's really funny to me now, because he wasn't like big early on when I had him on. Was do you Zach Talander?
No, I don't. Okay, I wasn't going to go that route, but yeah, okay. Wait, you had Talander on?
I had him on early days before I think even when he just started doing YouTube stuff, and like he started just doing really good, valuable YouTube stuff around weightlifting and programming. And he had like some ideas that I hadn't heard before. I'm like, yo, this guy's he's good. He's got it figured out. He's at least like, doing something really cool. And then it's cool because he blew up now. He's big now. He went like every which route, and now he's got pictures of him like playing music with Conor McGregor and shit like that. Like, he went like the country music route now. He's like not as much in the fitness world, but he was a really cool one that I found early on. I liked what he was doing. I'm like, yo, dude, you want to like do a podcast and like talk about this? And I literally just exploited his time. I just asked him every question that I wanted to ask him.
No shit, man. So I had him on a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know. You guys
after
did
the
like
Liver King.
Yeah.
So he broke the Liver King story. Yeah, no way. Interesting. So who I thought who you were gonna say was Cashew.
Oh, Cashew was a really good one too.
Dude, that was the first interview that I think for me, when I took a look at like our style, because our style was very like our early episodes. If someone's into like training and into like the details of programming and wants like a how-to on, knee, hip, shoulder, back, squat, deadlift, overhead press, all that, like we used to go in, like we did like exposés on regions of the body and types of training. Like, it was probably some of the more, it is honestly, and after a decade, I can say this with some confidence, it's probably some of the more detailed training information that exists in the podcast space. Hard stop.
Yeah, we had a really cool like kind of dynamic at first, because you and I didn't inherently agree on a lot of things, but we didn't inherently disagree, right? Like we just had very different perspectives from our experience in our past on training, especially when you were like big in on powerlifting, I was big in on CrossFit, that we'd come at things from like two completely different perspectives. And I feel like we'd end up agreeing on our perspective at the end of the episode, but like how we came into it was almost a little bit confrontational.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that a lot of people said was they liked that, because people don't realize that when because CrossFit really was like the lady in the red dress. Like, CrossFit was the hot chick in fitness, right? Like, it got all the eyeballs, all the attention, all the money. And it really was like, it grandfathered modern day powerlifting. Right. So the power lifter, like, it's powerlifting's lame now. And back then it was cool. And one of the cool things to do as a power lifter was to hate CrossFitters. Yeah. And, like I saw you train. I knew I know your academic background. Like, I know you as a person. And it was like, so like there was never any contention. But I think a lot of people saw that as like, yo, there's this podcast with this fucking power lifter guy and this CrossFit dude. And they kind of go after it a little bit. Where I never saw it as that. But I definitely think like the perspective having different lenses was like, and I think it's true to form of the way we do business, and the way we come together to make decisions is very true to this idea that we often end in a very similar place, but both of our ability to show our work and how we got there usually makes that end place better. Because the thing that got me with the Cashew episode was that was probably around the time where I started feeling comfortable doing things that weren't so training detailed, right? Because the Cashew story was, so you had set it up. I remember we met at your office, and I had no idea what I was walking into. I didn't know anything about his background. I knew a little bit, maybe. What company was he a part of?
I believe he founded Brute Strength, which was
right, that's what it was.
Yeah, they were like a gargantuan in the space at the time. They had taken CrossFit training away from like just do a WOD and then do another WOD and then do another one. And they had like broken it into like, no, that we have a gymnastics coach that was like a national level gymnast. We have a national level weightlifter. We have a widely regarded endurance coach, and we have like CrossFit coaches as well. And they had kind of taken this almost like S&C approach to CrossFit, which I thought was like really cool. And they put out some of the best athletes in the game at that time. And like I got connected with him, and I just through like being in it and competing, and like I was working with like him and his team at the time, and I'm like, yo, this dude has like a crazy story. And I'm like,
do you remember what he said that kind of broke the whole thing open? Do you remember the exact, like, I always remember it verbatim,
dude, I remember the gist of the story, but it's like he was like hanging out with some people, like his buddy was like pretty deep into drugs. I think he was too. I don't want to put that out there if he wasn't, but like his buddy fucking OD'd and like died, and then like that just shifted his whole perspective on things.
Well, do you remember? So I'm going to go back and listen to it, because what I remember is burned into my brain. I mean, 8 years later, was on the day of my friend's funeral. When he OD'd from drugs, rather than going to his funeral, I shot up for the first time.
That's it. Yes.
Right. And I was like, oh, you can talk about other things other than back squatting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was big. Like, cause like, we've talked about some like we've gone off on many different tangents now, but that for me was like a pivotal moment of like, dude just can't, like, I didn't fucking know who this guy was. I was like, Jay, you sure? You're like, this cool story. Great Bruce Strength. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And dude, we're 35 minutes in, and I'm just like, someone cutting onions out here? What the fuck's going on here? Like, that was like Anthony Kiedis scar tissue level, like just raw. And I was like, oh, this is not just like how long should we periodize of handstand walks for? This is like real shit. And that for me, like, totally will forever have changed my perspective on podcasting. And it was just him just being like, yeah, dude, what it was, my friend died, and rather going to his funeral, I fucking shot up for the first time. And I was like, holy shit, dude, that fucking still sends chills down my spine.
I know, it's fucking crazy, man. And that's like, I don't know, I think there's a good parallel in what we do. Like I find a lot of meaning in training that I bring into the decisions that I make every single day in life, and vice versa. And I think like things like that, like life lessons are life lessons, regardless where you pull them from. Like if your buddy's ODing and you're shooting up instead of being at his funeral, or like you're making decisions around training, like they're representative on like the human dynamic, the thought process, like the way people go about living their lives. And like I think there's kind of a deeper thread beneath all of this that like we get to kind of dive into in the podcast is like, all right, like why are we making decisions around the things that we do? Or like, why do we care about the things that we do? And like, yeah, it might seem meaningless, like equating that to exercise, but to me, that's just, like you said, a creative outlet. It's like both you and I, we've had our life experiences, I think probably more than most people our age. And I think that's probably been the case. Like, even since we were younger, like we've kind of been through some shit. We like talk about it. We're both deep thinkers. Like I think our outlet for that is talking about exercise, but we bring in a lot of life experience and like a lot of decision-making properties that we've learned, not necessarily from working out, but there are there are parallels of like concepts and intentions and rationales that we have that echo into day-to-day life that have allowed us to be successful in the things that we pursue outside of weightlifting.
Yeah, I mean, everything's a representation, right? Like, have you ever heard of Plato's allegory of the cave?
I don't know.
So it's like Plato had this idea of like, you know, most people live their life. Imagine you were born in a cave and there's a fire burning behind you and there's people casting shadows on the wall. If this is all you know is just looking at the wall and seeing the shadows, that becomes your reality. Right. But none of it's the actual source, right? You're seeing a representation of reality. But it's a couple of layers removed, because like the whole idea of the allegory of the cave is like, you know, through philosophical awakening, you turn your back to the shadows, you walk towards the fire, then you get out of the cave. And then you know, so it's like you get to the true source, right? So the fire is a representation of the sun that casts a representation of these shadows, which are people on the wall. So you're like, you know, it's almost like layers of inception deep from like truth. And I think what training does or did and continues to do for us is it's a really good representation. And I think you see it, like you know, you see people cling to their most accurate representation, whatever that is, right? Like it's something that's a consistent framework that gives them a grip on reality, right? The old Henry Rollins quote of 200 pounds is always 200 pounds, right? Everyone kind of knows that in the world, but why does that have meaning? Is because it's close to an accurate representation of reality that we can all sort of get on board with. And like, you know, religion offers this. Fuck, have you ever been to a Comic-Con, or have you ever seen people online that are like heavy into that world?
Not really.
Right. Well, I mean, you're familiar with the idea, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like you're familiar that it's a difficult thing to get a ticket to because it's so well attended.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for humoring me. But it's like what is comic? Well, it's what it does is it acts as a representation, right? And representations are the scaffolding for meaning, right? And I think where we had common philosophical ground was that our meaningful representation was the same. And I think as a quick sidebar, I think a lot of people go wrong in not finding meaning because they have too many representations. Right? There's too many. So like think of the cave, right? There's the fire, and then there's the shadow, and then there's there's the fire, and then there's the thing making the shadow, and then there's the thing on the wall that you see. It's like your layers removed. The more representations you have, the less meaning there is to be had, because it's scattered across the scaffolding. It doesn't mean it. It doesn't stand on anything, right? So I think that was something that I think fundamentally, as you know, as business owners, however that turned out to be, I think we understood each other because we understood how you represented the world. Like we were so, you know, there were people who got into training when we were in school because they saw the success that you and I were having. Right? They saw that like the two kids that played pool through every single class, somehow when it came to time to do the thing, had, you know, a roster full of patients and were getting good results with cool people. And then like the number of people I remember you like, you know, I'd sit in your office, I'd kind of like poke my head out. And I got to shout out some of the early members of Sundown for being like the nicest fucking people on the planet. like I remember Jeff and the dude that drove the bus, like they were just the nicest guys. But I remember like looking out and seeing kids from our school, some like that were looked up to you and like joining the gym. And I'm just like, these motherfuckers, like they're not about it. It's not a representation of the reality. Right. And it's like, I can't find common meaning there. Like, you know, but between the problems that you and I've had, and it's going to take, you know, it'd be a few episodes of mostly you talking about the problems that we've had. I think what worked was, whether we explicitly said it or not, is that we had a representation of reality that understood what this meant to us. And it was training. And I think it's a weird thing to say outright if you don't understand the context of how representation is a scaffolding of meaning. And because I'm not telling people like, look, only get into business with people who like to train. Right. But I think if you can find someone who I think you should get into business with, or you should, if you're in business with someone, understand what's the representation that gives them meaning. Like, what do they use that represents the meaning of life? Because if you don't understand that, I think it's a complete non-starter, because you will run into problems. But I think that what's allowed us to navigate even like moving towards good times and away from bad and making decisions, you know, how be it ever trivial or important, is that piece there. And I think, like, you know, you touched on like the deep thinking aspect. I don't think it's necessarily required, but it's required if someone is a deep thinker that the other person be a deep thinker and has that representation. Because if one person is just spouting off about anything, deep thought, not deep thought, just doesn't have the same alignment in the way they represent meaning, you're cooked. Like, you're cooked. We would have been so fucked so early.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there'd be some pretty awkward podcasts. And I think a big part of that is just like coming down and figuring out what your values are around the thing that you're doing. Right. Because that's been the one thing that steered the ship through the good times and the bad. It's like, look, we have common values around what we're trying to do here and why we're trying to do it that are going to guide the decisions that we make. And like, whether that's for the good of the business, it could be that simple. Or if it's something larger than that, like spreading truth and like getting to the truth around these ideas and concepts and just putting valuable information out there. Like, just being on the same page about that goes so fucking far, because then there's no conflict to be had, right? It's either like you're doing things in alignment with this or you're not. And it can be that simple. Like,
You go. It's just, I mean, I have an example of like when there was like there was no conflict, but man, there could have been, and it would have been so bad for me. Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about?
Fuck. I think I do. It's just like early on, like we were at your gym.
Yeah.
The camera set up.
Yeah, dude. But again, it's like, look, I think, you know, I think you knew me well enough to know that there was no ill intention, but you also knew that this is a teaching moment. And it's about to be it's about to be a teaching moment where you have to get like a surgery on your septum in a few years, or you're going to come correct. And hopefully I came correct enough. So like to keep you up to speed. And I'm not even going to name the name because we never released it, which is the annoying. Well, I'm not the annoying part, but I think there's a lesson in this one too.
Right.
So there was I had put up, fuck man, I was such a shit disturber. I put up a tweet and then I put the tweet on Instagram and it was calling out starting strength.
Yeah.
And it was like, what? It was a cheap shot. It was like, but it was funny. Like I look back at that and be like, oh, some of my finer work. So for those of you, and I don't not think this now, and I don't really give a fuck, but like you have to understand angsty fucking power lift. Like that guy in the video who's like, who can barely afford the food that he's eating and he's eating a lot of it. I put up a tweet. It was, so I was making a comparison between starting strength and Scientology, which is like, I thought that was pretty clever. And I forget what I said, but I made a comparison between whatever his name is. Who's the starting strength guy?
Oh,
whatever his name is. Greg? No, that's Glassman. I have to look at it. I feel so bad that like I made such a crass insult and now I don't even care enough to remember the guy's name. Mike Ripito.
That's it. Yes.
And I compared him to L. Ron Hubbard. And so there was like a local guy who was actually like, he's decently well known. He was better well known than we were at the time.
Yeah.
He was actually over the hill in Santa Cruz,
Mm-hmm.
who like worked on behalf of starting strength. And he reached out and he was like, basically was like, take it down. And I was like, come on the podcast and we'll take it down. So I fucking squeezed him. He negotiated with a terrorist, which is his first mistake. Very un-American. And so he came out and it was you and I, and we recorded in the office and we were filming some stuff of us deadlifting or something.
Yeah.
And I think you were sitting next to the camera or something. And I was just like not thinking. And I was like, hey, can you like turn it on? And it was completely different. I was completely off base in the way I was like not thinking of like, and he left to go take a shit or something, the other guy, and you came like right up to my face. Like I'm talking like nose to nose. And I'm like, yes. And you're like, yo, you never fucking talk to me like that again. And I'm just like, yes. Okay. I'm so sorry. He had to hurry up and I had to shit. I think I pooped a little. Like I was so afraid. But it was like, there was nothing after that. It was like, all right, we're good.
No, because there's mutual respect there. Like it was literally just a miscommunication, but like you were kind of short in the moment or something. And I'm like, I'm not a fucking cameraman. You will treat me with respect.
Dude,
But like,
the first, you know what the first hire we ever did was? A cameraman, because I didn't want to get the. I'm not getting my ass kicked again by Jiunta. There's no way.
God,
I will
that's
pay the last red cent to not go through that again.
Oh, that's so funny. But
Oh,
I
dude.
mean, the thing is, like, at the core of it, there is a mutual respect there, and there has to be, right? If that mutual respect isn't there, then like it's gonna crumble at some point. Like when things get tough, or when there's some sort of actual conflict, or something that's gonna require people like you to grit your teeth and like figure some shit out, which we've had those moments. Like things are
That'd be
gonna
part two.
yeah, right. Fuck 2, 3, 4.
Right.
But you'll have those because in a business, and I remember during one of those times, episode 2, 3, 4 on this, I was talking to a lawyer, and the lawyer said, like, contracts are there not just for when things go bad, but for when things go good too. Like when things go, they're the reason that these guidelines are there are for when things go worse than expected or better than expected. So if you're getting into business, like the goal is always that it's going to be better than expected at some point, right? And you need something to govern that at some point. And that's like it doesn't start with a contract. It starts with mutual respect and alignment on what the goal is around that business and what you're trying to accomplish. Because if that's not there, then you'll never get to the place where things are going better than expected.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think one of the things that really catalyzed the business shone light on that exact principle, right? Like it shone light on. So I mean, there's a lot. And one of the things that I think was, that really set us in was changing from the training space to the education space. Right. And I think that embodied kind of what you just said, because it things went really good, like really quickly.
Yeah.
Like, and there was there was way more money coming in than there ever was before, but then expectations were skewed based off of who was doing the work and how much they had come in for. But also it's like, it also embodies the idea of like, hey, look, take the opportunity that's right in front of you. Right. So like the Good Life seminar thing really, I think was catalyzed, because it's like, we went from doing a lot of stuff together and in person, and like, being your office, my office, a couple times a week or every day, whatever it was, to then like, hey, dude, like we're going to put this under prescript and I'm going to be gone. And you're like, yeah, do it and we'll figure it out. And then like that moving fast and the ability to be like, to recognize that, hey, this is an opportunity for the company. It's not on our mood board because we don't have one. And then at the same time, it's like, the stress that put through the system, because we had other people in the business as well, that really brought to light what you were saying. It's like, okay, when things are going good, the expectations change. And one of my favorites, and I've heard it recently, is unspoken expectations or future resentments.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, wasn't that the truth?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Things got a little dicey for a bit there in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the middle was most of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Fuck, man.
And we spent, but I think, I don't know why I thought we could do this in one episode. So we'll have to pick this up at a later date. But I think like maybe this as a transition is a good place to kind of call it. But like a lot of what I hear in the entrepreneur space, as so far as the bro entrepreneur culture intersects with fitness, is this idea that like people fail multiple times, right? I had 7 failed companies before I made my first million or whatever. And it's like, I don't, flexibility offsets failure, right? And I think one of the things that allowed us to be successful through iterations under the same flag was the ability to maintain that flexibility, right? And it's one of the things that I think has really been, a superpower of ours, is because we've built and scaled the company largely remotely, right? Like it was years after. It was probably 2018. I think we started doing the stuff with Good Life Fitness. It probably wasn't until late 2019, or at least in a year and a half in, where you actually came out. We did a seminar together. I remember you coming out to Mississauga, and we did a seminar. It was actually, ironically enough, I think the first time we met Killian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. It's like, I think people I don't want to say they give up, but one of the things that I've never seen with us is like our business is completely 180 degrees different. I don't even know if that's a fair axis to spin it on, but it's like so many dimensions deep and different than where it was before, but nothing ever failed. Right.
Yeah.
I never look at anything. And I think people are too often like sold this idea that, look, failure is this good thing that helps you get out of the way towards the thing that's successful. And it's like, if you remain flexible, right? Like Prescript is the same LLC. I can see our fucking operating agreement in my head. Like I see the California State Licensing Board, the whole nine. And I know the day we signed it. I remember leaving for some vacation and you were giving me like the last $800 to your name or whatever it was for like the first franchise tax board or whatever.
In the parking lot of that Gold's Gym. That
Right. Yeah. It looked like the biggest sketchy drug deal of all time. Yeah. We banked at Comerica Bank, the proud bank of Detroit, the first bankrupt city in America. Like we're just every fucking stupid mistake you could make. I think, and this will kind of become my last like takeaway or something that I see in us that other people, maybe preach against is like, I would never like, there are things we don't do anymore. There are things we do now. There are things we're going to do in the future, which we'll get to in future episodes. But flexibility allows, what other people deem as failure just to be part of the progression, right? Because like we literally, we had this pivot, and I don't like using the word, but we did this pre-COVID, right? Like this was 2018. We got into the education space, and then we got into the L1 came a year or two later. But I just think people and I think this is where the mood board comes in, right? The rigidity that comes with this, like, this is the thing, this is where I want to be, this is the end result. It's like, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. It's like, we want to be able to provide value. And we saw a way better opportunity to do that with education. It's like, well, we can give you programs or we can teach you the thought process behind the programs that we make and we're successful with. And, that flexibility allowed us to continue to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said earlier, what we're doing now is not what we thought we'd be doing when we started this company. And like, if we had to find this company to be, we started doing exercise program. If we're like, this is what we do. And we tried to fit everything that we do now or everything that we wanted to do or everything that our clients or our customers were telling us we should be doing into that, we would have failed. But the luxury that we had in the beginning is we were so agile, right? We didn't take these things as misses. We didn't take them as failures. We just adapted with the messages or the feedback that we were getting. It's like, hey, let's put together a hip primer program and we'll get 3,000 emails that we have to manually input into this shittiest fucking software we can find. And we'll fucking do it. But like, if we were an exercise programming company, we would have failed at some point. And maybe we did, in some people's vision, fail as that. But we pivoted and we were agile enough to take the message, take the feedback of what we were seeing, what we were learning as we were going down this route of starting a business that, if we were an exercise programming business, yeah, we failed. But if the overarching goal was to provide value, we have executed on that tenfold. And the sole fact that we were able to survive and pivot and change our business model around the feedback that we were getting, that's what's allowed us to continue providing value to, I don't know, millions of people. Maybe we have millions of downloads on this podcast. Like tens of thousands, if not millions of people have heard us talk about exercise. And hopefully most of those people have taken some value from that. Like that never would have happened if we just failed with exercise programming. So like, if you pull on the thread and you get to the end of it and there's another thread sticking out, just keep fucking pulling until there's nothing to pull. And that's pretty much what we've done with this business. Completely lost your audio.
I think a lot of people just get too caught up in, and I don't want to say the end result, because we're definitely, I think if the end result is providing value, the end result isn't necessarily, we have KPIs on how we track that, right? And some of it's financial and some of it's number of customers and some of it's the number of, courses, and you can peel that all the way down to like social metrics and the podcast and downloads, subscribers and all that stuff. But it's like, at the end of the day, I think one of the things that it's because it is common practice. It's just not, the meaning of it isn't understood. It's like when you set your values, understand that that's when you pull on those threads, everything should come back to that. Right. Like that's because if our values, like, hey, like if the values of the company is like, how do we continually provide value to the people that we interact with when it comes to training, then every pivot we've made is just an evolution towards doing that more effectively. Right. So it's like whatever practice you partake in to achieve that goal, right? Like one of my favorite quotes is have clarity of vision and flexibility of process. I think people misconstrue that because they think the clarity of the vision is, I'm going to have a 7-figure, 8-figure business that I want to help 10,000. It's like, dude, stop. Where did you learn that? Unlearn that. Unfollow that guide. Stop listening to whatever fucking podcast. And like, if you can get clear on those like core like values, you're never going to fail. Right. And you'll always make the right decision. And dude, I mean, we'll probably cut it here, but everything down to like the name of the company. The name of the company to me is like, it's such an embodiment of how you and I make decisions. And that was really the first time, because I remember calling attention to it. Like we literally sat down, you had a piece of paper out and you were writing words down.
Always.
Yeah, because you always have a piece of paper around.
Yeah.
And you were like writing a bunch of training words down. And like, I think I had a note on my Google Docs or whatever. And for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And then you said, other than like the look in your eye that said, I'm going to break your nose if you talk to me like that, when the whole camera bullshit, you said one of the most important things, probably one of the most important lessons I've learned in business. You taught me, I want to say it was late summer 16. And you were like, we got to hurry up and start making mistakes. And I was like, what kind of Warren Buffett cauliflower ear motherfucker is this? And it was, to this day, it's still it's the best piece of advice that I give to other people that was not mine. And it was just like, it's like, you got to hurry up and start. And it was true. Like we were kind of mulling over the details, and you're like, dude, what? Like, no. And then we put it up for sale, and we had like a customized program. We had a few template programs, and we were swimming in those mistakes for a minute, but it was what was required. And I think that's something where a lot of people, like, my takeaway, or at least for this part of the episode, maybe we'll get back to this, because this brings us to about 2018. This is our on Cole's notes of 2 years of business. Is the values piece, I think, is big, and it allows for flexibility. And I think a lot of people get sold this rigid, like, where do you want to be? You want to make $1 million? Well, how do you make that? Well, it's $84,000 a month, and it's this many weeks, and it takes this many clients. It's like, dude, you got emails in your inbox. You should probably get to that. You should probably right. Like you got to go train. Like you got to go do that. Right. Yeah. So I think it's that for me is like the values piece is big. Yeah. And the collaboration piece was really big. And I mean, well, I'm curious to see where your big takeaways of the first 2 years of business are.
Man, yeah, it's hard to sum it up into a concise statement, but I think that's it. Is like align on your values, understand the vision of what you want to do and why you want to do it, and maybe even more importantly than that is like if you really want to do it, because like if you're going to get challenged, guarantee you're going to get challenged, and it's going to get tough. And like I remember like taking it to that point, like 2018. There's a word for it now that the kids on social media that don't have businesses like to use. It's called burnout. Remember when we were just like swimming in a Google Calendar that we had to have multiple touch points on every single day, like a shared calendar of just all these customers. We had to update programs and like do everything manually. Like we took it to a place where we wanted to be busy in our business, and we took it to a place where we were way too busy just because we didn't have the systems to execute on what we were doing. But that's the thing, is like you need to put yourself in a position where you need to find a way out. And if you don't ever take it to that place, then you're never going to be successful, because you have to take on more than you can to realize like, all right, we need to adapt and we need to solve this problem. And business it's just problem solving. If you can't solve problems, then you're not going to get far. But the number one problem you need to solve is like, you need proof of concept. Like, absolutely. I think too many people are out starting businesses with no proof of concept, and they have all this branding and they have all these systems and all this stuff that they want to do, but there's no concept there. There's no proof that anyone actually wants this product in the world. Like, we took that to the furthest degree that we could possibly take, that we could possibly manage. And we're like, all right, we need help. Let's fucking figure it out. And that's really it, is like, you need to put yourself in a position where you actually want, you know, that you want what you're saying you want, and you're willing to work for it, and that aligns with your values, and you're going to figure it out. And if you don't have that, you don't have the desire to do that, then go and work for someone. Like, there's literally nothing wrong with that. But if you want to grow a business, like, you have to fucking bury yourself, and then you have to find a way out, and then you have to keep doing that time and time again until you can afford to hire people to do that for you. Shout out Carlos.
Seriously, yeah. I think, all right, so we're at like an hour and change. I think
Yeah.
this gets us to October. In my mind, this gets us to October 2018.
Yeah,
this is where we're at.
Right. Yeah,
because the HIP Primer program hit in. I was like, okay, that was Swiss 2018, and then I think I went on the road a few months after that, and then that was like when shit started to get. Yeah, or whatever. Maybe I'm still on the road. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll stop there. And, you know, depending on whether or not this gets a single download, fuck it. What do we give a shit? We're definitely doing a second episode. The thing is, this is going to be like, you know how they made Lord of the Rings and there was 3 movies, and then they made The Hobbit and there was 3 more movies? Like, how the fuck is there 3? 2020 is, depending on, maybe we should check with our lawyers.
Yeah, right.
2020 might be The Hobbit, where there's 3 episodes just on 2020. On Jesus. But yeah, this is fun. If you guys have any, you know, obviously questions or anything like that, you know, we're not business coaches because we're still in it. But if you guys, you know, feel free to reach out on the Instagram at RX'D Radio, or at Red, White, and Jordan, WITE, or at the _muscle_doc. Any closing thoughts before we wrap?
More than anything, thank you guys for being here. That's it.